Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Well, the holiday is behind us and it's time to take a look at whether something has changed for the better in the market. For me personally, it was a completely bland start to September, but let's take a look at the data and you be the judge. Also, at the end of this video, I want to dedicate a few minutes to discussing what is actually driving specific equipment types, flatbeds, reefers, and dry vans. So let's take a look at the general market, the capacity, the volumes, rejections, and diesel prices, and then we'll look into specifics for flatbeds, reefers, and dry vans to figure out relatively the best areas to end up in. Ready? Let's go! Okay, starting with the net change in carrier population. As of last week, we lost an additional 227 carriers net. Now, in terms of the contract to spot spread, which shows us how much more contract carriers are earning per mile than those spot carriers, again, the dark blue is us in 2024 compared to last year. The higher this is, the smaller the margin between what spot and contract carriers get paid. Currently, contract carriers are getting paid on average 61 cents per mile more than those spot carriers. So the question is, why do we want this to be higher? Well, if you look at this chart, this is the rejection levels, and you can see they're correlated. The white here is us in 2024 compared to 2023. They're correlated. The higher this is, the smaller the margin between what contract is getting paid and what spot is getting paid, the higher the rejections. And high rejections means that more volume is going to the spot market, therefore skewing that load to truck ratio, which usually will impact rates. Now, speaking of rejections, again, white line is us in 2024. And what you can see is that the rejections made a U-turn and started going down. Currently, the rejection rate is at 4.56%, which is unfortunately very, very low. Now, what about those volumes in the general market? So the white line is us in 2024, again, comparing to 2023. And all year this year, volumes have been higher than in 2023. And just like it happens every single year, we saw volumes take a sharp downturn right after or during Labor Day holidays, just because no one is working, right? Volumes are on their way up again. The question is, how far up will they go? Last but not least, we have our diesel prices. And diesel prices, if you guys have been reading the news, the price per barrel has been on its way down. So it is, of course, reflected in the diesel prices as well. So currently, diesel prices are on average at $3.71 per gallon. And this is a national average according to actual truck stops. Okay, now let's take a look at specifics, and we are going to start with dry vans on the spot market with data that is provided by FTR Intel. So dry vans on the spot market saw an increase of 6 cents per mile right here, week over week. And this is because of the pre-holiday kind of rush, right? Every single year, dry vans do experience an increase in volumes as well as rates right before holidays. Now, year over year, rates are actually 4% down. And over the past 5 years, dry van spot rates are 15% down. Volumes week over week also increased. They were up 7.8%, but again, this is because of the Labor Day holiday. Year over year, however, if we're just comparing to last year, dry van volumes on the spot market are down 20%. And over the past 5 years, down 41%. Now, when figuring out the relatively better places to be at, what we do is we take the data from Sonar, the rejections and volumes for dry vans in the general market, and we take a look at which market areas have the highest rejections, volumes, and then we put them together to figure out where more contract rate hits the spot market. But we also take a look at the capacity side on the spot market in those markets. So starting with general volume for dry vans. The top 5 are Ontario, California, Atlanta, Georgia, Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, and Detroit, Michigan. Doesn't mean these are the best areas though. The top 5 rejections happen for dry vans in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, rejection in the brackets, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Des Moines, Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa, and Green Bay, Wisconsin. Putting volumes and rejections in the general market together, we figure out the top 5 where more contract freight hits the spot market. That's Ontario, California, Los Angeles, California, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Atlanta, Georgia, and Houston, Texas. Now, using the DAT heat map, which shows us where there are areas of overcapacity or undercapacity, what we can see is that Ontario and Los Angeles, California are actually good because they don't really have overcapacity surrounding them. Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Atlanta, Georgia is so-so. Atlanta is actually usually really bad, but I'm guessing this is some leftover data from the Labor Day holiday. So Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Atlanta, Georgia, so-so market and surrounded by overcapacity. Now, Houston, Texas is a good market. There is a lack of capacity, but the problem is there are too many trucks around that will be deadheading to Houston for their next load. Now let's talk about reefers on the spot market. Reefers saw an increase of 13 cents per mile week over week right before Labor Day. Now, year over year, rates are down actually by 1.7%, and over the past 5 years, they're down 9%. Volumes for reefers week over week also increased by 5.2%. However, compared to last year, volumes are down 13% and down 37% over the last 5 years. Now again, we're going to be looking at the sonar data for rejections and volumes to figure out the relatively better places for reefers to end up in. So starting with volumes, the top 5 are Allentown, Pennsylvania, Joplin, Missouri, Lakeland, Florida, Fort Worth, Texas, and Joliet, Illinois. Again, this is the general market. This is not the spot market. It's just where the loads are actually coming out of. Now, in terms of the top 5 rejections, that's North Platte, Nebraska, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Bismarck, North Dakota, and Little Rock, Arkansas. Contract to spot, we can see that the top 5 where more contract volume goes to the spot market for reefers are Joliet, Illinois, Twin Falls, Idaho, Ontario, California, Little Rock, Arkansas, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Sorry, this is a typo. It's not Michigan, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, taking a look at the spot market conditions to see overcapacity, we can see that Joliet, Illinois is just okay, and it is surrounded by overcapacity, while Twin Falls, Idaho, and Ontario, California are actually better areas for reefers. Little Rock, Arkansas is just so-so, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin is okay. It's a little bit better than Little Rock, Arkansas. All right, last but not least, we have our flatbeds, my favorite equipment type as of late. So on the load board, flatbeds actually saw a decrease in the rate per mile on the spot market by 3 cents week over week, which is actually normal for flatbeds, but it's been so long of decreasing rates for flatbeds on the spot market that yeah, it's kind of hard to swallow. Now, year over year, rates are down by 3%, and over the past 5 years, flatbed spot rates are down 10%. Volumes week over week actually did increase by 6.5%, which means that there's just more capacity available as of last week. Maybe people were trying to grab those better opportunities, hoping that the holiday shipping is going to increase those rates. But year over year, flatbed volumes are down 4.5%. And over the past 5 years, down 35%. Now, I don't have sonar maps for flatbeds, so I make my own using truck stop data to figure out the better places. First, we start with load volumes. The darker an area is, the more loads come out of that area on the spot market. Not much to say here. It looks pretty much exactly the same as we have been seeing over the past month or two. The South, the Midwest, and some of the eastern states, as well as the West Coast, this is where the volume comes out of. Now, the capacity map also didn't change by much. The darker it is, the more flatbeds in that area, and Texas is always the place where most flatbeds end up. But in general, California Texas, and then the eastern part of the US, which includes the Midwest, the South, and the East Coast states. That's where flatbed capacity is. Now, putting these two together to figure out the load to truck ratios, where is there under capacity, over capacity, to figure out where the negotiating power will be, we're going to look at this map, the load to truck map. Anything red is over capacity. There are way more trucks than there are loads. Anything beige is about 1 load per truck. It's pretty much equilibrium. There's no yellow here. Yellow is usually about 2 loads per truck, but there are 4 states that are green, which are over 3 loads per truck. Washington, Oregon, Mississippi, and Alabama. Again, I'm going to repeat this. Washington and Oregon, the volumes did go up there, for sure. However, a lot of that volume is because one broker gets a load and posts it a ton of different times, the same load. Now, Mississippi and Alabama are actually better places for flatbeds to be. In general, again, it looks like the market is getting better, but on a national level, the load to truck ratio went down by 0.01 points, so from last week. So it did get a little bit worse. So while both reefers and dry vans saw an uptick on the spot market in terms of rates week over week and in terms of volumes, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for flatbeds. But the question is, what is actually driving the volume for flatbeds, reefers, and dry vans right now? Well, for reefers, we have those onion loads, which grow in Washington, Idaho, California, and Oregon. And dry onions start shipping usually in August until March, April, but the surge starts happening in the shipment of onions somewhere in September. So expect the volumes in Western Idaho as well as Oregon especially to start going up for reefers. Now, in terms of dry vans, despite the fact that we did see an uptick in rates and volumes week over week, the profitability of dry vans has fallen below 2019 levels, according to the DAT resources page. DAT, or DAT, however you pronounce it, also states that volumes should start increasing for dry vans in the Pennsylvania area, especially Allentown, Harrisburg, and Philadelphia. But the thing you have to always be mindful of is, even though the volumes are expected to increase there, be mindful of what the capacity situation looks like, because it can dilute the whole situation. Now, flatbeds and open deck trailers are really struggling right now, despite the fact that, according to DAT, the amount of homes being built has increased. And because flatbeds and open deck trailers in general are closely tied to construction and building projects, we can actually look into the future by looking at how many building permits were requested. And currently, permits are 4% below June of 2024 and 7% below July 2023. So yeah, guys, that is the situation with the market this week. Let me know how you feel about it. Do you feel like it's been easier booking loads after Labor Day? Was it harder? For me, it was a completely bland start to the week. Nothing really changed, maybe got a little bit worse, but then again, we are a flatbed carrier, so we saw that rates did go down week over week by, what was it, 3 cents? Anyway, guys, wishing you all a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.